Here. Just like that. A rocket came from right here. Exactly from here.
In Kursk region, a hotel with Russian terrorists was destroyed. The occupiers' logistics routes have been eliminated. ZEET channels are whining again. HIMARS strikes. Moreover, the Russians claim that Ukraine used the ceasefire to advance deeper into the Russian Federation. A new breakthrough near Tyotkino in the Kursk region. It's impossible to hide such failures. More on all this coming up. Watch until the end. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Darina Hutsakalo, and here are the latest events. In the Russian town of Rilsk, in the Kursk region, on the evening of May 11th, it appears that Ukrainian forces carried out a powerful elimination of the enemy. Rilsk, demilitarization of the enemy with US-made missiles. A strike on a permanent deployment point. According to analysts, the location of enemy Marines was hit.
Our sources report that the deployment point of the 40th Separate Marine Brigade was struck. We are awaiting official information.
Footage of the aftermath of the strike appeared immediately after the impact. The video shows a destroyed multi-story building. There is currently no official information from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine regarding strikes on enemy forces. However, several Ukrainian military journalists immediately reported a powerful explosion in the Kursk region after the strike.
A strike hit the occupiers' location in Rilsk, Kursk region. In Rilsk, Kursk region, the deployment site of Russian troops was destroyed. Locals report that there are dead and wounded. The rubble is being cleared.
It also became known that the military facility was located near a strategically important bridge over the Sim River, which could have provided logistics for the occupying forces.
Here. Right here. A missile came at us from here, right from here.
Meanwhile, the Russians are complaining and insisting that as a result of the attack, civilian infrastructure was damaged, including a local hotel and a car wash. Moreover, Russian media report that the blast wave damaged 2 private houses and several cars. The buildings have broken windows and damaged roofs.
So here we have both a hotel and a private house. 2 cars were damaged here. And here are the windows and the house.
The Russians also claimed that the devastating strike by the Ukrainian Armed Forces was carried out using an American artillery system. The Ukrainian Armed Forces reportedly struck a hotel and a car wash in the city of Rilsk, Kursk region with HIMARS. Moreover, the occupiers, as is tradition, reported that HIMARS, who allegedly struck Rilsk, was allegedly promptly eliminated on the same day. Immediately after that, the enemy's artillery rocket system was destroyed by our strike UAV and the Iskander missile system. By the way, it is worth noting that in January, the command post of the Russian Armed Forces Kursk Group, which is also stationed within the city, was attacked in Rilsk as well. At that time, according to official data from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, it was destroyed by a precision strike. For even more high-profile events from the life of Ukraine and the world, follow the Times of Ukraine Telegram channel. Only the latest news and verified information. See the link in the description below the video. Meanwhile, the situation remains tense directly on the front line, which now stretches across 2 regions of the Russian Federation. ZEET channels are loudly claiming that the Ukrainian Armed Forces took advantage of the ceasefire to advance deeper into Russia. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, during the ceasefire, the Ukrainian Armed Forces made 4 attempts to break through the Russian state border in the Kursk and Belgorod regions. The occupiers claim that Ukrainian defenders launched an offensive on a new section near Tyotkino. Ukrainian infantry from the Sumy region began a series of attacks during the day, attempting to break through from the direction of the Sumy village of Besalivka. Airborne troops are engaged in combat, having already repelled 2 assaults by the occupiers. It should be noted that Tyotkino is located to the west of the Sudzha district in the Kursk region, where the Ukrainian Armed Forces previously held a bridgehead for 6 months. Panic among the Russians over the new advance by Ukrainian forces actually began back at the start of May. The enemy launched a new offensive in the Kursk region, attempting to cut off Tyotkino.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
At that time, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky, made a statement about the progress of the Kursk operation. According to him, it has achieved most of its objectives.
Ukraine has shown it is capable of counterattacking, striking, and driving the enemy back, even on their own territory.
The new offensive potential of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region has significantly undermined Putin's plans, while also shifting the focus of his attention. Now the dictator has redeployed part of his troops to other important sections of the front. So what exactly is the treacherous Russian army planning? More on this in just a moment.
Russia has redeployed part of its troops from the Kursk region to other directions. The Ukrainian armed forces used surprise and launched a new counterattack in this area.
When Gerasimov reported to Putin that they had liberated the Kursk territory, which was false, but we pulled back, and they withdrew a large number of forces and equipment, up to 90,000 troops were concentrated on a small section of the front. They moved to the Kharkiv direction and to the Pokrovsk direction as well.
In the Kherson region, Russian occupiers are beginning preparations for an amphibious operation. Since the end of April, the Russian army has been attempting to land troops on small islands that are currently under the control of Ukraine's defense forces.
The enemy is trying to force a water obstacle to cross the channels in the southern part of the Dnipro island zone, where the Bugaz Islands are located, where Kozulisky Island is, and to land on these islands, seize a small foothold there, and then proceed to cross the Dnipro precisely in this southern zone.
The Russian army plans to gradually capture the islands, which will allow them to expand the strike zone for Russian equipment. Preparations are underway for an amphibious operation, particularly involving unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, and mortars.
And from time to time, enemy vehicles appear there. Usually, it's a multiple launch rocket system, and from there, we also experience a large number of attacks on our city, Ochakiv, in the Mykolaiv region. Why does the Russian Federation, the Russian army, need this operation? The gradual capture of the islands allows them to expand the strike zone for their equipment.
The Ukrainian command of the Defense Forces South is aware of such plans and maneuvers, and they monitor the movement of literally every boat and every mortar. Currently, the enemy in the Kherson direction does not have enough watercraft or personnel to carry out such a large-scale assault. At present, the most tense area on the front is the border between Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions. The commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Syrsky, wrote that the Pokrovsk direction is one of the most difficult sections of the front in the Russian-Ukrainian war. According to him, the Defense Forces soldiers have managed to stabilize the situation in this operational zone in Donetsk region and, in some places, even seize the tactical initiative.
According to the data from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the intensity of combat operations has increased significantly over the past week. In just 6 days this week, there have already been 1,219 attacks compared to 1,150 in 7 days last week. The enemy was most active this week on the Pokrovsk sector, accounting for 42% of all attacks. High intensity also remains on the Novopavlivka sector with 13.7%, the Lyman sector with 12.7%, and the Kursk sector with 12%. In total, these four directions account for 80% of all enemy assault actions.
Despite the fact that the Russian army is only 2.5 kilometers from the administrative border of the Dnipropetrovsk region, the front in this area remains stable and is under the control of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. The advance of the occupiers in this direction has been stopped.
How do you assess the successes of the Ukrainian armed forces on enemy territory? Share your opinion in the comments. Hit the like button under the video and stay up to date with the main news. There are almost 420,000 of us subscribed. There's more to come. See you soon.